We're going to talk about what to do if a sleeper cell attack occurs or a T group event or something like that right here on our homeland where it can affect you. What do you do? We're going to talk about 10 classes of threats and about a dozen things to do for each one. And then I'm going to have some general advice. The latter one is probably the 10th is probably the one you really need to listen to. And we're going to talk about also just general things that you can do. This is Greg Allison with Green Gregs. I'm here to bring you the truth of what's going down and how to be ready for it. My friends, this is a case that the threat of sleeper cells is real and it's really dangerous. The FBI, the Customs and Border Patrol Agency, CBP, and the Homeland Security Department have all come out and said that the threat of terror attacks are higher now, the threat of sleeper cell attacks are higher now than ever. And they said we've really got to be concerned right now, in part because of the war, or at least the attack that we've fostered upon Iran. Now, here's the key thing. What actually prompted Trump to make that attack was he got a threat from Iran that was handed to him by, an intermediate agent when he was at the G7 summit. And it says that if you attack us, we're going to activate our sleeper cells on your homeland. That made him furious. That's when he left the G7 and came here to the States and had an emergency meeting with his staff in the Situation Room and decided to take action. Because he wasn't going to be blackmailed. But the problem is we may face the consequences right here at home. So you've got to be prepared. All right, enough of the preamble, enough of drilling that, because I have talked to you to ad infinitum about the threat of these cells, how if they take down the power grid, you can expect 9 out of 10 people or more to perish in a year. Oh, yeah, if they do it right. Guys, this is not a trivial, fun Sunday part thing. We're going to talk about reality here and what to do about it. So buckle up and listen. So, like I said, I'm going to talk about 10 different categories. So, we're going to start out with electric grid. Why? Because electricity is the Achilles heel to everything. Without power, you don't have communications. You don't have, your cell phone, your internet. You can't watch TikTok, YouTube. All these things the kids like to do is gone. It's bye-bye. The games. Your bank account goes poof because it's all digital, ones and zeros. Your ability to order things, Amazon's gone. Your stores all have digital inventory systems, digital checkout systems. They're not even prepared to take your money. And not to mention, they only have about 2 or 3 days worth of stuff in them. So once they're looted, it's all gone. So, and water. Oh yeah, it takes electric power to pump water up in those big tanks, which usually gravity fed out. Electric power to clean your sewage, so you have no water, you have no sewage, and fuel. Yeah, for your gas, for your cars, for diesel trucks, everything that ships things, grows things, fuel is needed. And fuel, all the fuel pumps are electric. So you see where we're going. And then for the trucks to keep running, if we can find some other fuel. They run out of spare parts. They break down all the time. You get out spare parts to repair all this stuff. A logistics system, it's gone too. The fuel for the backup generators. Here's what I worry about the most. I'm going to cover radiation and the last event, and number 10. That's going to be part of what number 10 is going to be about. But one of the things that worries me the most is what's happening. The reactors. Everybody talks about nuclear plant reactors. Because they're so afraid of that reactor. Well, you can scram those reactors full of boron. What I worry about is those spent fuel rods outside, where the outside the containment building. It may be inside a building, but not always. But it typically has like just a sheet metal roof over it. It could burn off with enough heat, which the spent fuel rods would give off because they're a zircaloy alloy, which when hot, which when they are hot when they got the uranium pellets in it, burn on contact with air. I got the Sandia National Laboratories test reports to prove it for anybody who wants to argue about that. Proof them, burn and slap up. So that could release all the radiation from the spent fuel rod pools into the air. They got 120 foot of water on them. They evaporate 160 gallons a minute. When the pumps break down and you can't get fuel to them anymore because the logistics systems break down, that water starts evaporating. When it makes contact, poof, it all goes off. And there's far more radioactive material on spent fuel rod pools than there are hundreds of times more than all the nuclear warheads on Earth. So it ain't gonna be a pretty day. Okay, so all you guys say, but I'm live off grid. I'm good. I'll be all right. Really? I live off grid too. And I'm saying you chances are you may not be all right. Here, walk it. Before we get into the electric thing, one of the key things is where you live at. Do you live near a military base that could be a target? Do you live downwind from a nuclear power plant? Do you live downstream from a dam or a chemical plant? Think about those. We'll come back to that. All right, let's get into electric grid. Why electric grid? Substations. Because there's already been a trial run against one at the Metcalf station and near San Jose, California, back in 2016. There was an attack. Now, it was April 16, 2013. Pardon me. April 16. I was get to 1613 mixed up. April 16, 2013, the Metcalf station was attacked. And they shot at certain key components as if they knew what they were doing, but they didn't actually go through with it to take down the station. The SEAL team came and looked at it and said, hey, this looks like, how we would conduct a dry run exercise to practice for taking something down. It was a very professional event. They took up all the brass, and to this day, we do not know who did it. I can go more into that, but not today. So that was one case. Another case was the Iranians were interested in this because back in 2014, when the United States National Electric Reliability Corporation put out a report saying that it only took 9 out of 10 the substations, if they picked the right ones to take them down, would take out the entire national grid. One of the minions to the head of the Republican Revolutionary Guard Corps ran in with this report to him all excited and said, look here, we only got to take out 9. And the guy's reply was 9? Already got 20 targeted sleeper cells in America. Now, this was back in 2014, long before the borders got through wide open in the last 4 years. Who knows what's targeted today? How many? And if they're smart and target them just right, they could cause cascading failures downstream to cause other. If you burn out those transformers, if you shoot up or burn out those transformers, there's various ways to do it. Various ways. It's too easily done. You could fry hundreds of them, maybe thousands, if you know what you're doing, especially if you got enough people. It could be the case that we'd never see the grid back in our kids' lifetimes. Stone Age. But in the first year, 9 out of 10, look, it used to take 18 months to get one on the loading dock. Now it takes 24 to 36 months to get one on the loading dock after you order. But how are you going to order it when you don't have any money because your money is digital and your requisition system is over the internet, and the guy building it probably is out too. So I'm saying there's just a lot of things to consider. Power grid can be taken down by EMP, solar. It can be taken down by even an earthquake along the Madrid fault in the United States would have done enough damage to probably take our grid down. And the other thing is, what we're worried about today is sleeper cell attacks. Hacking is a way. And hacking may go hand in hand with the sleeper cell attacks or an EMP. There's too many ways to take our grid down. Anyway, my friends, so let's get to it. This is what you need to do, the 12 steps. I won't give such a preamble on the other ones. Pretty evident. A lot of people just don't get this one. That's why I went into this. Pardon me. Okay, the 12 prepper actions to take is 1, get your solar power system with battery backup. Get at least a 48-volt system, 2 to 5 kW. I don't know if I just put off my image here. 2 to 5 kW. You need to make sure that you have enough power to run your day-to-day basis. Okay, I'm right here. You need to make sure you've got enough power to do the things you need to do on a day-to-day basis, at least the minimums. You may have to give up a few things if you just want to put in a quick and dirty solar system. You can get a little 120-volt systems or 100-volt systems, 100-watt systems from Harbor Freight. And you got to have a lead-acid battery with them. Now, you could get 4 or 5 of those to run different things. If you want to put up something quick and dirty, just quick and dirty, real fast, or you can get some bigger systems. Go 600 watts, 650. That's, big enough for an RV most of the times. Get 1,000 kW. Now, you want to run your freezer and your refrigerator. If you want to run air conditioning, there's some stuff you just not want to run. Make your coffee on a burner instead of, there's a lot of things that draw a lot of current you just don't want to do. Running a vacuum cleaner. So, but you can do like I'm doing. I'm putting in a 9 kW system out here. I'll show you the stuff on that to come up. But I got a 100-watt system on my van I lived in for better than a year. So there you go, a little Harbor Freight system. I've done a review on the past. All right, store non-electric lighting. Get you some LED lanterns, some of these solar lights that they put outdoors. Stick them outside, let them get out of the sun, bring them in if you need them, like little torches, and put them up in your walls where they stay lit for a long time, about all night. You might be taking them outside or putting a can over them so you can sleep at night. Cut the light out. You can just stick them outdoors in the sun, and they will keep going for a long time. Another thing to consider is candles. I got a lot of candles. You can make candles from beeswax. You can make candles from beef tallow, fats, different things. There's tons of videos out there on YouTube. You might want to watch that. All right, acquiring a generator. And really a propane generator is probably best because the fuel lasts longer. For gasoline, you need fuel stabilizers. Really and truly, if you really require power, you need to get about 3 generators, get all the same type, so you can have spare parts from one or the other, because they're all going to break down, and none of them will last long. You will be out of generator power probably in a year. And if you buy the top line Generac or something like that, if you run it full time, you're going to be out of power. Now, if you're alternating, you might have power for a year and a half. Everything's going to break down. All this stuff's going to break down. Have manual tools too. Hey, like my manual quartzite stone axe. It never runs out of power. And it's multi-purpose. It can be a hammer, stone axe, head knocker. So anyway, gotta have a lot of fun. Manual tools are going to be really important. Just remember that. I mean, electric tools will give you a quick edge up, get things done fast, get some structures built, but don't count on them in the long run. Okay. So stockpile food. This is now item number 4. Stockpile food. And what you need is at least a 3-month supply. Shelf stable, rice, beans, canned meat. But guys, really, you need enough to get you through the next growing season or hunting season or both, hunting, growing, trapping. You better consider ways to start acquiring your own food. If the grid goes down big time, it ain't coming back. You better be prepared for the long term. So my idea for food is grow your own. True Leaf Market. I'll put the link in the video. Check out True Leaf Market. Got heirloom seeds. You got to have seeds that aren't hybrid. So that when you plant them, you get the same plant back, open air, non-hybrid, open air pollinated. And these are all non-GMO seeds. They do sell a lot peaches and cream sweet corn, which is a hybrid. So if you won't get the same corn back if you plant that, but they tell you it's a hybrid. They make it real plain. So just pay attention to that. But there's no GMO stuff in anything they sell. Same with Eden Brothers. So stockpile food, grow food that will keep, like 3 Sisters, winter squash, corn, beans, balanced meal. Got that covered there. And I'm working to grow out here. So in the desert, I'll do a video on that, hopefully not too distant future, because this has got new challenges for me. All right. Get water storage tank. At least 250 to 1,000 gallons. Now, you can get a 250 to 350 gallon IBC tote. That's those big plastic box totes that got the metal cages around them. In case you don't know, you can get them 300 gallons, you can get them 250. And you can get them anywhere from you can get a dirty one for $50, but you don't want to buy a dirty one that's had oil or the junk in it like that can never get washed out, chemicals. You can get plenty of them that have food grade stuff in them, water, maybe soap. I don't know if I really want to go soap or not, but some people do. You really got to wash it out. Or you can get them pre-washed too, used pre-washed. Now you can get them used anywhere from decent, washed out. Depends on where you buy them from. $150 to $250. Depends on where you're at. Out here in the desert and high demand, they're higher. In Alabama, I can get them for $100 each all day long. Good ones. So depends on where you're at and what the market for them is. But they're worth their weight in gold. That's a quick and dirty storage that you can carry in the back of your truck. The water in that, isn't going to be so heavy. If you got a good stout truck, 1-ton truck, I see people tear that around, not filling them all the way, maybe, but in pickup trucks. Or I got a 3,000 gallon water tank out here, and I get water delivered to me 1,000 gallons at a time. And so that's something to think about, storage water. But you also want a filtration system. You might get a Berkeley filter, some Sawyer filters to filter the water out, especially if you're doing what I'm going to tell you in a little bit later about rainwater collection. So consider that. Get a water storage tank. Again, you use about a gallon a month per person. How many people you got in your house? You better think at least 3 months. I would go further than that personally. Here, I like to keep stuff up to the next monsoon season, which starts soon. Anyway, Faraday cage, excuse me, a manual well pump. So if you got a well, you might want a manual well pump. Now, I got two of these buckets. I don't have a well on my property, but I got two neighbors that got wells and they got electric pumps. So when their pumps don't work, we can pull them out. And I got these metal buckets that are about yay big around that's made just for wells. You drop them down a well with a rope and then pull the water out. So that's something to think about. Or, manual well pump, but when you got water that's 300 foot deep, a manual well pump, it's going to be a little hard to do. You can get rods and have them done that way, but that's just something to think about. Faraday cage storage, for your electronics, you want to put them in Faraday cages. Now I've got a video where I've talked about all this stuff before about surviving EMP. Go back and look at some old videos. Backup comms. Your cell phone is going to be, gone. So maybe a GMRS radio. You might get a satellite phone. The satellite still work. You might have ham radios. Even CB radios might work. But, you're going to have to store them in a Faraday cage and hope somebody else has got a set that's within range of you, also stored in a Faraday cage. All right, cash reserves at home. ATMs will be gone. ATMs will not work, and they won't put any more money in. What you got is all you got. So you might want to have cash on hand and have things to barter. Barter will be very important. Those little nugs you feed, those little kibbles you feed nugs, take the word nug and flip around if you know what I mean. They might make good barter items, but you got seeds may make good barter items. Something I like is gold, and I like it in fungible little amounts that I can actually buy small items with instead of a gold bar or a big gold coin. Going and trying to buy, a motorcycle with a coin. I might want a loaf of bread or a couple dozen eggs. So you can do that with this. This is called a gold back. Check out defythegrid.com and use the code GreenGregs for goldbacks. Anyway, check that out. But anyway, enough said for that. So let's go on. Cash reserves. Pre-solar cookers or rocket stoves or prep solar cookers. You can buy cookers that just use mirrors to cook, little ovens, solar cookers. Not a bad idea. It's a way to cook stuff, especially when it's hot, without adding heat to your house and burning fuel, getting your house hot in the summertime. And you don't have to chop wood for it. Even in wintertime, they usually work really well. So just something to think about. Rocket stoves are very efficient with wood. You're basically burning little sticks in them, and they do real well. The other thing is secure your home. Use motion lights, locks, and reinforced doors. Yeah, I got all that here. If you can do cameras, they might be worth something if you got your own power. Maybe look to a Starlink satellite like I got here. And it depends on if there's EMPs or war in space. We don't know how all this would go down. If it's just sleeper cells active in the States, the satellites will probably still be functional. But we don't know what all is going to be entailed and how this will escalate and what's next. But the thing is, when it starts breaking down in 3 days, the hungry mob's going to be beating on doors. And maybe you still have Starlink at that point in time. Maybe not. But, they give you a situational awareness of what's happening in your home. We'll talk more about that at the end, maybe. Anyway. Water supply contamination. So we're coming back to water supply because one of the biggest threats is that a terrorist cell, sleeper cell, would contaminate your water supply with poison or a bioweapon. So you got to treat your municipal water. That's the ones that's worse. Most people are drinking water that's municipal water coming from some water board. Anyway, so the 12 actions to store at least a gallon per person per day for at least 30 days. I'd say, how many months it is during that, between rain seasons. Install gravity-fed filters like your Berkeley, Pure, which some True Leaf Market, not True Leaf Market, from prepwithgreg.com. Go to prepwithgreg.com and you'll get back in to find the Pure filters. That's what I use. Use water bricks or drums, with water storage devices. Keep pool shock or calcium hypochlorite, for water purification. Have iodine tablets and UV sterilization backups. And I did my video on 12 on several methods for purifying, sanitizing water. And I showed the use of small, little thin plastic bottles for that because the UV will penetrate. It don't penetrate glass, but you got to have it purified before you sanitize it, because if it's turbid inside, the UV won't go through it. So keep that in mind. So know how to distill water and how to make a still. Hey, Byron, let's make a still. Anyway, install rainwater catchment system. Oh, we're actually working on that right now. Gotta go outside working. Map local freshwater sources. Now, this is something you ought to do. Go around and find out where the natural water sources are in your area. You might even test it. There are some of them springs. Most of it's going to be dirty water, but then you can purify and sanitize it. Purification is cleaning it out, getting the turbidity and all the stuff floating around and contaminants out. That's purification. Sanitation is killing the bugs. And a lot of filters will take out most of your bacteria, like Giardia, but very few get viruses. Really, none of them get viruses. So that's where you come into your sanitation. UV, fire, boiling, iodine tablets. Anyway, okay. Enough said about that. Map local freshwater sources. Again, I think I just repeated that. Use collectible bladders and bathtubs, collapsible bladders, those big bladders that you can get store water and put a bunch of them in the bathtub. Those are probably not very self-supporting, easy to rupture. Bathtub, some people just fill a bathtub up with water when they know things about to happen. Okay, rotate water every 6 to 12 months. Keep an eye on municipal alerts so you may have a contamination warning. Teach children not to drink unknown water. Now, that's very important. Teach your children not to drink unknown water. Most people don't think of that. Now, here's another thing you just need to think of. If you suspect sleeper cells are going active, even before there's an alert, you wouldn't want to drink that water. Ain't nobody else telling you this. You're getting this here first. Don't drink the water. Put it up. Let it sit a while. See how everybody else is reacting. Are people kicking over and doing the funky chicken? Now, if it's a disease that might have some time to activate, some diseases take a while to metastasize in your body, whatever you want to call it, to spread to the point where they're causing you an illness once you take it in. Some are fast, some aren't so much. So you pay attention. You boil your water. That's the best thing to do if you can. Dam attacks. I did a whole video talking about dams, talking about how there's a lot of rivers that got these dams way upstream. They hold a fair bit of water behind them, and these are remote locations. Somebody got in and destroyed one of those dams. They could go down and take out, hit the dam, blow it with enough force to take it out and take out the one. Or they may have somebody sitting there with explosives. And when the water wave gets there, they just blow that one. They might do that 2 or 3 times till you get a big enough surge of water coming downstream. It's going to take out every dam downstream. Now, you go someplace like Tennessee River, there's tons of dams way upstream. Tons of dams, tons of dams, tons of dams. So we got to pay attention to this. These dams can cause a lot of damage, especially, most people think, what happens with the dam if it goes out and how much will it flood? They don't think about all that water upstream. If all that goes out, what does that mean? That's where you got to be real careful. That's what you got to take into consideration, what to do if all that water comes out at once. All right, my friends. So what you got to know if you're in a flood zone. You better have bug out routes picked to avoid bridges and valleys where the floods may occur. Bridges may be taken out, valleys where it may hit. You need to keep go bags, 72-hour kits of stuff that just to get you by wherever you got to go to. Store valuables in waterproof and fireproof safes. Have the NOAA radio to catch the alerts. Practice evacuation drills. Keep a vehicle full of gas, at least, if you're not half full, you're messed up. Anytime you get down the half tank, you need to be filling up your tank at all times, guys. Have topographical maps. Your GPS may be out. Cell phones may be down. Cell phone towers might get taken off. So when this flood occurs, it's going to take out power lines, bridges, all kind of stuff downstream, infrastructure, to include how many nuclear power plants are on riversides. Think about what just happened in Fukushima. Think Fukushima's. How many of these do we have in the United States? A lot more than Fukushima. We could have major disasters at the nuclear power plants. So this is what you better be paying attention to. A lot of people aren't paying a lot of attention to this. They don't really think about it. They think maybe one dam goes out. They don't think about how bad it would be if you got several reservoirs cascading down a stream all at once. It could be really beyond imagination. It could be catastrophic. And this could happen all around the country if they decide just to take the dams out. Get an inflatable raft and a life vest in case the water's rising in your house. Elevate electrical equipment and critical equipment. Coordinate with community groups for emergency comms and evac. Now, this is something you need to do for just about all these cases. I'm going to try to speed it up here. 4, oil pipelines, fuel depots, terminals. The threat, fuel storage, and fuel shortages or price hikes, breakdown of trucking logistics. So you may not be getting anything coming in. So the top 12 prepper actions: 1, store fuel safely. Metal jerry cans and use fuel stabilizers. Rotate every 6 months on fuel efficient and dual fuel vehicles, propane, gas hybrid, bikes and e-bikes. I got a bunch of bicycles. I can't afford an e-bike yet, but maybe, as a fallback transportation, or a mule. Stockpile critical goods, foods, meds, and diapers, so you don't need to drive. You may not be able to go get them, and if you could go get them, they may not be there because there's nobody delivering, okay? No nearby farmers for local food sources. Now, this connects into all of them. Some of these points are good for everything. You need to know your local farmers. Make friends with them. Offer to help them, just so you get in with their good graces. And then, when you get in a bind, you're not just going begging for food. You're offering help. You're something in return for it. So they get something for helping you out, and you get something from helping them out. So it works out both ways. Keep a siphon pump and know how to use it. Have alternate cooking methods: wood, propane, solar, like we mentioned earlier. Buy a high efficient wood stove or a rocket stove. Use fuel shutoff tools. You got various, whatever fuel systems you got, you better know how to shut things off. Acquire diesel heaters, which are good for off-grid heating in homes, and a lot of people live in RV communities, especially people living in vans. They like these diesel heaters. Monitor supply chain distributions. So just the disruptions that you may get reports on. So, use a ham radio and alternate media because the regular media may be shot. Now, a lot of people don't think about is bridge and rail sabotage. A lot of bridges may be sabotaged. Freight trains may be sabotaged. Remember when the freight train is carrying chemicals and knocks over, like happened up in Ohio, was it Palestine, Ohio, that they had a big nasty spill. See, these could have very dour effects on communities in the whole country. So don't rely on just-in-time deliveries. Have at least 3 months of food, hygiene supplies, because, the rail traffic brings a lot of our goods. It's not just trucks. Stock up on seeds like Truly Market, soil, and tools for gardening. A lot of these are just, you need to keep all these in the bank here that we're mentioning because they apply to the other areas. Learn to preserve food. Dehydration, can and ferment, or grow stuff that don't need so much processing, like the 3-sister method I mentioned. Keep 2 to 3 alternate travel routes mapped and tested. Know where you're going. The bridges may be gone. How do you get out the bridges gone? And it goes back to the flood. How do you get out if things are flooded? Have you got these things figured out? Can you get out, or will you be stranded? Sore meds and first aid in quantity. Join or form mutual aid groups nearby for trade and barter, maybe a survival tribe even, or just get to know your neighbors. Store spare parts for cars, bikes, and tractors. Now, there's one of the best advice pieces. And generators. Have tools for small-scale cargo movement. Wagons and carts and sleds and wheelbarrows, things like that. Invest in local supply chains. Work with your small manufacturers, invest in them. Even your little hobby places, what do you call them? The places where everybody goes and works in one place. I got brain lock. Anyway, build relationships with off-grid neighbors. Yeah. Communications, grid attacks, cell down, internet down. Top 12 prepper actions are ham radio license and equipment. Now, once the government's down, they ain't gonna care if you got a license or not, maybe. Otherwise, you can use a ham radio if you don't have a license for emergency purposes. Solar charger for the radios. Keep a written contact list. CB, because your computer may go that. CB radios and GMRS and FRS radios for local comms. Old landlines or analog phones might still work in some areas if they have some power, and usually the phone power is separate. So, yeah, who's got an analog phone these days? Ringy dingy. All right, offline maps, download it and to phone or on paper. Better on paper. As your phone, as long as you can keep it charged, might do something, but it ain't gonna be the resource it was. You can be calling nobody. Keep flash drives and docs, maps, guides. Okay, you can put some of that on your phone and read things electronically as long as you can charge it. You can carry a lot of stuff around on the phone, a lot of information, but you better have some books too. Install mesh networks or LORA for community networking. Now, that's a little more sophisticated. Use hand signals and coded messages if necessary. Little flag stuff. You have to learn that stuff. Establish rendezvous plans with family in advance. Now, that is critical. Redundant communication plans, comm tree structure, who calls who, how you contact. But really and truly, the family rendezvous plans are the most important thing to consider. Now, what happens if the sewer plant gets attacked? It backs up, people are going to be getting sick. Sanitation is important. You want to prevent E. coli, cholera, hepatitis outbreaks, typhoid fever, and all kind of nasty stuff. Anyway, the actions here is have a composting toilet or a bucket toilet system. That's what I do. Some extra TP, bleach, and disinfectants. Yeah, I got all that, and alcohol. Use DIY hand washing stations, a camp sink or spigot, jug. Stockpile N95 mask and rubber gloves. That kind of stink. Know how to build latrines, at least 200 feet from water. Yeah, and not right next to camp, but also not where the bears are going to eat you when you bend over to take care of what you ate. Store lime for sanitation pit treatment. Yeah, it keeps knocking down the smell, the flies. Have probiotics and basic meds for GI issues. Store oral and rehydration salts, so stock those. Set up quarantine space at home. If somebody's sick and then you need a place to put them where they ain't out spreading it. Boil and filter all water from external sources. Keep shoes and clothing sanitized, especially if going into town, because you don't know what you're bringing back. Avoid contact with contaminated flood water. Yeah, don't go swimming out in that mess unless you got to save a life, and then you better clean up real good. Hospital attacks or overload. Hospitals, if they're still operating because they got power, if they are likely to be overloaded, or they may be direct targets. So actions to take. Take first aid and trauma classes. Red Cross, stop the bleed. Stock comprehensive first aid kits, big ones, for trauma gear, tourniquets, quick clot. Keep a supply of basic antibiotics, fish marks, etc., vetted by a doctor. Okay. Stock over-the-counter meds, painkillers, anti-diarrhea, and antihistamines. A lot of people have problems with histamines and diarrhea. So be prepared for that. Diarrhea can kill you. Just if you can't get the fluids in you and you lose them, you could be pushing daisies. Create a medical notebook with printed guides. Know your family's medical history and prescriptions. Acquire home. There's things in nature that makes up for a lot of that stuff you might want to learn about. Anyway, and also you can treat a lot of things with just eating the right foods if you can acquire them. Acquire home diagnostic tools. Home diagnostic tools such as blood pressure, oxygen meters, and things like that. I got one in there somewhere. I'm going to pull it out. I'm stuck it somewhere, I guess. Anyway, I'll put that thing. So, store vitamins and electrolytes. People forget the electrolytes, water. Know local EMTs or nurses in your network. Know people around you that can treat things, how to get to them, how to communicate with them. Keep backup glasses, contacts, dental tools. Train others in your home on medical basics. Set up a sick room with ventilation and isolation capability. All right, random access, public attacks, soft targets. This is things that they may just hit. Avoid, this like malls, theaters, sporting events, schools. They had a big theater attack in Russia back a couple of years ago. So top 12 prepper actions: avoid large crowds during times of high alert. Sit in your exits in public places. I like to sit with my back to the wall, by the way. Be aware of your surroundings. Know where the exits are. Carry legal self-defense tools, pepper spray, tactical pen. You can do a lot of hurt with a pen. Concealed carry if it's permitted. Nugs. Pet your nugs. Feed them kibbles often. Nug. Flip the word around. Teach family run and hide and fight tactics. Run, hide, fight, flight. Yeah, however it goes, Use apps for threat alerts. Citizen Life 360, things like that. Keep small trauma kits in cars and backpacks. Practice everyday carry. With flashlights and multi-tools, of course, nugs if you can. Have a get home bag in your vehicle. It's not, this is just something to get you home. Learn tactical movement and cover concealment basics. I covered some of that in my surviving EMP video. In fact, I covered some good points in there. You need to check that out. Search for it. Take videos on my channel and search by topic. Train your kids on situational awareness. Establish check-in protocols for events and travel, so you can keep up with everybody. Nobody gets lost. No one's left behind, like in the movie Left Behind, Let's Stay at Home, or whatever it was, the Christmas with Carly Calkin. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Don't leave no one at home. Now, there's other high-impact targets, quite a few, like nuclear plants, food processing plants. We've seen a lot of them burning. Chemical factories, toxic plumes. So, don't take a lot to imagine what to do. Top 12 actions. Get a Geiger counter, plus potassium iodine tablets. Seal windows and doors with duct tape and plastic sheet. On a quality gas mask, NBC rated. Track wind patterns in real time. Read the radio. Know your local evacuation routes and staging areas. Stay upwind and uphill from disaster sites. Think about that where you're picking a home. Monitor radiation and air quality websites. Stock N95 masks and air purifiers. You can get HEPA filters for your house or whatever, your bunker or whatever, to pull air through the HEPA filter. They take a lot of stuff. Get some of your own, grow some of your own food, as long as long-term fallout workaround. What's all that's known? Truly market a seed package over. I do this. Okay, store shelf stable food away from external walls, so I don't get contaminated. Have a fallout room with masks between you and the outdoors. Stay informed via emergency bands if they're still communicating. You may not be able to get nothing. So there you are, my friends. These are things to consider. For your rain catchment, you want to do a first flush diverter, which is a way to divert the first 15 to 20 gallons of water coming in, so you don't pick up the bird droppings, the dust and pollen, the leaves and twigs, soot and ash, industrial pollution. Let your roof wash off, and then collect whatever comes down. So I might should do a video on that one day. I'll do a video when I do my water catchment here. Hopefully I can come up with something in that regard. But anyway, so I'm going to filter the water, filter and purify it at least. So these are all things to take into account, my friends. All things to take into account. Mainly, where are you living at? Where do you live at? Are you living in a threat zone? I'm having to use a different camera here. My camera and the laptop died on me, so I'm using an attachment camera. Where do you live at? How close do you live to these threats? Do you live in a city? If you live in the city, you might want to change your name to a really handy descriptive name like pork chop, mutton. Yeah, you might be delicious to somebody. Don't be. Heavily populated areas are a real problem. Very big problem. One of the reasons I left where I was at. Just got too many people out there. That and too many tornadoes. Oh my God. So think about these things where you're at. Are you close to a military base? Are you downwind from a nuclear power plant? I was. Both. Are you in a flood zone? Potential flood zone. What happens to the dam breaks upstream? All things, a lot of the dams in this country are earthen. There's a lot of dams, a lot of targets, a lot of ways that sleeper cells could make life here, could end life here. It could be worse than the nuclear war, seriously. So this is why you need to get ready. You need to get prepared right now. These are some of the basic steps. But along with this goes everything else you know or think about prepping. It all goes along. All these different little things I mentioned, they all fit together as a package to prep. Now, maybe you can't handle them all. I understand that because it takes time and money to do anything. Lots of time and lots of money. So I do it one little step at a time. Pick the things, low hanging fruit. They just want you to pick it first and work your way up. And it might be buying, just some dried beans, dried rice at the store. Might be buying some from some kibbles for your nug, or getting some pepper spray or bear spray or something like that. It might be just driving around and learning where the water sources are in your neighborhood. Putting a gutter on and connecting it up to some rain barrels. Pretty simple stuff can be done. But you got to do them. You got to get started. Now's the time. Yeah, and I hope you got enough time. This all could go down any minute, or it might be if for some reason Iran don't activate sleeper cells, China might in just a few years. Get ready. Be ready right now. This could happen imminently, immediately. So I just want you to take care and be safe. So do that. Keep your eyes wide. Biggest thing, be situationally aware, especially when in crowds. Closely watch anybody that's acting funny. Closely watch them. Keep your distance. Be prepared to get the heck out of Dodge or whatever you got to do. But you better be able to back up whatever you got to do. As that old saying, God made man and Sam Colt made man equal. Anyway, so just remember things like that. Just be careful above all. Be careful. If you got some implements, train with them so you ain't done something stupid. And don't act stupid out of rash and anger. Think. Keep your head on your shoulder. Don't do stupid things you'll regret. Okay? Thank you for watching. Everybody be safe. Be aware. As I said, eyes wide open and head on swivel. Greg out. Oh, yeah. Subscribe, bang the bell. Click out. Greg out.